Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you are doing great. Hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, my friends, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we discuss here on the Common Sense channel. So once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. Want to do a little disclaimer. Whatever I may say in this video or on this talk are strictly based on educational purposes and to teach and to educate and inform, right? Nothing against anyone, nothing for anyone, and nothing in support of anyone, right? Just to teach, inform, and educate. So having said that, I want to begin this video by talking or discussing the inequality that exists in organized religion. If you've been watching my videos, by now you should know when I say organized religion, what I'm talking of, right? So I'm talking about those religion that are earthly religion that are talking about the things that they say God say that they must tell you from God to you. When our relationship with God are personal, like you don't need someone to intercede for you. When if that person was a ghost or spirit or has a special power magic, yeah, but you can do it yourself. You don't need these people. But because they're there, we call them organized religion. They have hierarchies, they have structure. So today we're going to talk about the inequality. The inequality is not new. It's in the text, right? You find it in their text. And if God is one, if God is inclusive, as we know God is a spirit. I don't say God, but for the sake of this video, I may say the Almighty is a spirit that does nothing with the affairs of man, right? Has nothing to do with the affairs of us, but just guide us. And that we make choices. And the choices we make in life are the choices that you see in our world today. No one came from nowhere to build all of the things that human built. Human built these things by using their mind, their strength, their energy, their wisdom and understanding to do these things by the help of the Creator. Because if the Creator is us, then we ourselves are creators and we create things. That's what we do. We procreate. We create things. We say them and they become reality. They don't want to hear that because the reason is they don't want to hear this truth is because once they hear it and then you're taking them out of the picture. You're taking them out of the business of organized religion. You understand? And that's the same thing Jesus was trying to do. When Jesus says, you don't need the temple. He says, the Almighty does not exist in the temple. The Almighty exists within you. So it's the same thing I'm doing. I'm telling you that, look, you don't need these people. These are organized religion. You need yourself and your relationship with the Almighty. So let's focus on some elements that you'll find in organized religion that has to do with inequality. I think it's hypocritical for them to point fingers at the government or any institution in our world focusing on inequality. I don't think they should say, government, you need to do whatever it takes to make sure that everyone is treated fair, everyone is treated equal, that equality is number one in our society. When the genesis of inequality exists in the church, it exists in the mosques, it exists in the temple, it exists in the synagogue. So let's talk about some of these inequalities. For example, if you look at the biblical text, you notice that Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, the foundation of Christianity, without the death and resurrection of Jesus, there's no Christianity. No one can argue with me discuss anything. There's no yes, no but. The facts. Without the death and resurrection of Jesus, Paul wouldn't even exist. The one that all of you follow today, the teachings of Paul. Jesus never preached inequality. In the gospel of Jesus, women was always around. Children. There was one point Jesus was sitting down. He was teaching, and all the children came running to him. And the disciples, I think it was Paul, not Paul, Peter, one of them, said, try to push the children away. And Jesus said, no, let them come to me. He said, these are like heaven. You understand? Women are also included in Jesus's ministry. Never told them not to preach. Never told them not to do anything that had to do with the propagation or the spreading of the gospel, the teachings of love, and the internal power that we possess. Jesus never preached inequality. I often say Yeshua HaMashiach, aka Jesus the Christ. That's the appropriate right way to say it. Never preached that. Now, when you come to the gospel of Paul, Christianity, the foundation of European religion called Christianity, because Jesus is not the foundation of Christianity, because Jesus never established Christianity, but he is the principal value of what makes Christianity relevant. You understand? But he's not the foundation because he never established Christianity. Christianity was established by the Apostle Paul, because after the death of Jesus Christ, Yeshua Mashiach, the disciples had waited too long, and Jesus didn't come. So Jesus did not reappear again after he left, according to the story now. So Apostle Paul said, you guys are waiting. This was what Peter and the rest of the disciples. So Paul said, you guys are wasting your time. We're going to establish Jesus on earth. We're going to teach the gospel of Jesus on earth in form of institution. So it was the Apostle Paul that laid all of the foundation that you see in organized religion today, the hierarchies that you see. Without Paul, there won't be no deacon, bishop, or priest and all this. Paul did all that. Set rules, even the dress code in Christianity was done by Paul. And with that came all of the inequality. I think in Galatians, Paul talks about the role of woman. Paul didn't see women as equal. He didn't see them as something that, when I say something, not to be derogatory, but he didn't see them as a vessel that God could use. That's the truth. So in the gospel of the Apostle Paul, women, if they were to ask questions pertaining to the church, they had to have gone through their husbands, and if that is if they were married, or someone, the deacon, or someone in the church, to ask questions about the things of the church or God. Inequality. So even with that, in Christianity, you see the poor. The poor, they treat the poor as handout, people who must have handout. In fact, there's a scripture in Christian. It says there will always be the poor amongst you. You understand? So they don't teach the poor to fend for themselves. They don't teach the poor to do for themselves, to figure out a creative way to make it, instead of just giving handout or just being on the side, as you're always going to be there. We know that, so we have to take care of you. Even the widows, they treat them the same way. In their congregational setting, those who have money, they're always at the front. Those who have money and status, they're treated different. Now, I'm not going to say that all churches, all Christian denominations are like that. Some Christian denomination, they don't do that. They follow the teachings. Know this, that there are Christian denominations that follow the teaching and gospel of Jesus, and there are those that follow the teaching and gospel of the Apostle Paul. Those who follow the teachings and gospel of the Apostle Paul will never revolutionize, will never change, because they follow the strict principles and guidelines and doctrines of the Apostle Paul. That would be the Catholic Church. If you notice the Catholic Church, you will never find a female priest. You will never find a female monk. A priest, you will never see a female preach in a church. Never. In a Catholic Church. Never. I think there's other denominations like that are like that. And there's the Reformed churches, Christian churches that say women should have some role, because Jesus never differentiate those two. So let's look at Islam, because when I talk of organized religion, I like to go by sequence: Christianity, Islam. Because if you look at Islam, Islam is the second branch of Christianity. You understand? There's a portion in the surah, I think in the surah of the Year of the Cow, where the prophet was commissioning his disciples to go talk to the people of the book. The people of the book can be Christian and Jewish or Judaism. They can be, because Islam did not differentiate between Judaism and Christianity. But there's a huge distinction between the two. But because these two people, they had a book, you understand? Judaism had the Torah of the Old Testament. The Torah is the Old Testament. And Christianity had the New Testament and the Old Testament. So that's why Islam referred to them as people of the book. You understand? People of the book. So in Islam, the women are not allowed to lead like a joint service, like with men and women. Women are not allowed to preach where the men are seated and then the women. No, they can only lead prayers with women. They can lead prayers, but they can't preach. They can't give like a whole preaching. They can't do that. And in the churches, in the mosque, in the organized place of worship, or in the program houses, the women are segregated from the men. The women sit on one side. I give them a little credit because they don't have like chairs, special seated place for anyone. The imam sit on the floor, just like the other people, the women as well. But the only thing, they're segregated. So all of this inequality, the hypocritical aspect of these things are they don't talk about the inequality within their place of worship. They don't. But they are quick to point their finger at the government and say, you need to change. You need to accommodate everyone. You need to accommodate us. You need to not discriminate against us. But in the place of worship, they, my friend, are discriminating against gender. They do the same thing. I don't know how they treat the women, if they're good at giving alms, helping the widow, all of these things. These are all inequality that they don't talk about. And that's a hypocrisy. That's what we talk about here. Now let's look at Buddhism, Hinduism. These are all religion, organized religion that also has their own inequality. Buddhists, the monk, women cannot be a monk. It's a man. It's relegated to men. Hindu too, same thing. You understand? So all of these people, they all have the inequality. And if they were doing well with inequality, then it's easier for the government to do the right thing with inequality, because they are the genesis, And the thing is, when they are pointing fingers, this is the saddest thing, that they are quick to point fingers at the second arms of control, which is the government. They're quick to deflect. Whatever they are doing in their place, in the organized places of worship, they're quick to just reflect that on the government and say, you need to be changed over there. You need to include everyone. You need to do this. You need to do that. And meanwhile, they are the main architect of all of the inequality our world is seeing. And I think that they need to change. They need to start to promote. And I think this was of recently that we learned organized religion can be changed. Organized religion can reform. You understand? Because recently, not too long ago, the LGBT community was complaining that they are not included in organized religion, especially Christianity. And we saw an entire denomination of Christendom was fragmented because the people were saying, no, we're divided on this issue. Some members left, some members stay. And at the end of the day, some of them, I think the Baptist, Methodist, some of them, they accepted the LGBT communities into their fold. So these people can change. And that's why I keep advocating all the time on my channel. I don't mean anyone harm. I just want you to change, just like you accepted the LGBT community. I think you should accept other changes, like making sure that people are taught the right information, that there's no heaven, that there's no hell, that they should fend for themselves, that God is coming from nowhere to help better their lives, that they should start to look at things on earth. Work, tell them to go to work. Cut down on the hours that they spend at church. Tell them to work so that way, whatever they work, you can get some too. Tell them that God doesn't have a bank account. The Almighty doesn't have a bank account. Tell them that whatever good they do for the church is for you to keep being in business. That it has nothing to do with God. You're just trying to, and tell them that what you're spreading doesn't make no sense. Because if you cannot deal with inequality in the church, in the mosques, in the synagogue, in the temple, then there's nothing else to teach. Because inequality is more important. Equality is more important in human life. Because if you're preaching equality, it means everyone's life is better. In Judaism, men, I think, Judaism, they're little, that would be of recently, that they allow a female rabbi. But in Judaism, for a long while, they never allow female rabbi. I think the first female rabbi was in Europe. I don't know about American Judaism, but Judaism in Europe is more reformist. And the European women, they're like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Because they look at the Torah, they read it, they read the Talmud, they read these things and say, we have to have females. So they have female rabbis too. I mean, they're more a little bit inclusive. But the other ones, they're like, if you don't push these people, if you don't push organized religion to reform, they're not going to reform. They like to keep things as they are. They're conservative. You understand? They like to keep it as they are. Liberalism, I think the most liberal of them all is Catholicism. But even with Catholicism, they're going strictly by the teachings of the Apostle Paul. Yeah, the entire doctrine of Catholicism is based on the doctrine and teachings of the Apostle Paul. And the Apostle Paul was a misogynist. I don't want to say the word, but he wasn't a good human being. He didn't believe in equality. Yes. And this was contrary to the teachings of the man that I call Yeshua HaMashiach, aka Jesus the Christ. Jesus included everyone. I'm not saying that women don't have a gift, but whoever is preaching out there, if it's a male or female, they know if what they're saying isn't right. They know. They know that they are not who they are, who they say they are. If they stand in front of the congregation, they know if they are right, if they're actually called to service, if they are called to serve the community, because all of them are servants, except the hierarchies. You see some guy enter the church. They call him bishop. Everybody is trying to give him a special seat. Imagine Jesus, Yeshua Mashiach, sitting on the corner. He just looking at him and said, look at him. And when he sits there, this bishop, he has this huge robe on with all the decorative thing on his neck, on his clothes, on his rappel. And he's sitting there, his head is high, and they call him, he's talking as if he has frogs in his mouth or in his throat, and then everyone is bowing down to him. You see that in some churches. And these people, you look at them and you say they really don't understand the teachings of Jesus. You're not to bow to no man. It's in the scripture. I think it's in most of their teachings, this organized religion. But it's set up, they'll say it's respect. No, that's not how you respect someone. Even that bishop should bow down to the ordinary man in the church and wipe his feet, clean his feet. He should start by doing that with the poor and the destitute and the orphan and those people that are the downtrodden in that community of believers. See, I'm a believer. I'm not a Christian. I'm a believer because the original followers of Jesus, Yeshua Mashiach, were not even Christians. They were believers. They believe in the teachings of what this man was trying to preach. And they believe in that. They know that he was the right teacher, and they believe in his teachings. You understand? You don't have to know. You don't have to believe in God, but you have to know that he exists. I don't like to say he. You have to know that the Spirit exists. And I know the Spirit exists. I know. So yeah, let's deal with inequality in organized religious houses before we start to point out or point finger, especially these organized religion, at the government. And this is true. Once these organized religion start to do the right thing, whether they're here in this country, in Europe, Africa, Australia, I know that most Africans follow in the footsteps of European organized religion. So once the reform starts in these places, I know they just need to tell these Africans, because Africans are followers. The African man, the African black man will follow anything as long as that thing is willing to tell him or her what to do. The Africans don't think for themselves, and that's the truth. But I hope and pray, with the help of the ancestors, that the next generation of young Africans will start to think for themselves. That's all you need to do. Look, the Japanese religion is in the language. Their God looks like them. The Chinese religion is in the language. Their gods look like them. The Hindu, the Indian, their religion is in the language, and their gods look like them. The European, their religion is in their language, right? And the God look like them. So is the Arabs. You understand? The only people that don't have any of these are the followers, the Africans. Not to be condescending, but that's the truth. So I believe whatever reform happens in this organized religion, the Africans will follow. Just like they did with the LGBT group. There are some African churches that embrace them now. Why? Because their masters, the people that propagated Christianity to them, told them to, hey, you got to reform. The Catholic Church said reform. Everyone that's Catholic, reform. You have to be inclusive. So that's all they need. My own suggestion is tell them that there's no heaven, there's no hell. There's no God coming from nowhere to help you but yourself. Fend for yourself. Do for self. If you don't do for yourself, government was not established to do anything for you. It's the truth. Look at the role of government. It's not to do anything for you. These are hustlers too. So having inclusion where people can be part of an organization where they are doing things, being treated equal, will set the stage for government to do right. Organized religions hold the keys to inclusion, equality for all. And they should be propagating that. So that's all they need to be teaching. Inclusion, equality, treating those who, the forgotten people. There's some churches, if you're poor, huh? You go there, you to see the preacher. You have to be that will be on maybe on a good day. You see the preacher come and shake your hand and welcome you. You go there, no one even know you're there. You probably sitting in the back. No one knows you. And yet they stand up and say they're inclusive. They are a place everyone is welcome. That's why we talk about you. Let's go for the mosques too. Go for the synagogues, the temple. All of y'all needs to reform. And then guess what? When this huge transition and transformation happen in organized religious houses, program houses, guess what? Government is going to reform because government often follow in the footstep of you. That's why you see government never do anything to religion. If you see they do something, that means one of their people in the organized religion crossed the line and they have to show face. So they'll do something. But for the most part, they just turn a blind eye at equality, at a change, at reform, at doing the right thing. So religion, organized religion, needs to do right by the people. So as I've often said on my video, the greatest thing that could ever happen to anyone is not the day you're born, not the day you had your first car, the day you graduated from high school, became a lawyer, a doctor, had your first child, the day you became anything. The greatest thing that could ever happen to anyone is the day you discover yourself. Because from that day on, my friends, everything starts to make sense to you, including understanding inequality in organized religious houses. I want to say thanks to all the people that watch my videos, people that share my videos, and those people that support what I do here. All we do is speak the truth because Yeshua HaMashiach says, you don't need to believe in the truth. You need to know the truth. When you know the truth, that, my friend, is the genesis of your total transformation into a world where you start to see the matrix. The matrix is real. And I hope that you are doing great. Hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, I hope that you are in good health. Have a blessed and wonderful day. Thank you.